You've probably been told that protein is the answer for everything. More grams, more shakes, more bars, but no one told you the truth about absorption, because it's not necessarily about how much protein we eat if our body can't absorb it and use it. And most people, they're not deficient in protein. They're deficient in the ability to break it down, transport it, and get it into the cell. Low stomach acid, mineral depletion, dehydration at the cellular level, collapsed electrical gradients, and so protein sits, it ferments, it burdens digestion, or it just gets burned as energy instead of becoming structure. You think you're building muscle, skin, hormones, but the raw material never even makes it to the construction site. So this is the real conversation no one's having, and this show has the answer. All right, today I'm super excited because I'm with Catharine Arnston, and we are going to explore faster, better, and easier ways to get protein. Catharine, thank you for coming to the show today. Protein is such a hot topic. People are struggling to get enough protein. And for someone like me in my 40s trying to build muscle, the longevity organ, it feels like a lot of work, and sometimes it feels daunting, not only to get enough protein, but clean protein and protein that my body can utilize. Because as we age, we know that our gut health and our metabolism does have assaults on it that maybe it's not as efficient as it used to be when I was really young. So I need to get really clean protein, protein that I can metabolize easily, and also that has all of the amino acids in it that my body needs to be able to make this muscle efficiently. So I would love to get into this with you today. You've got your PhD, you've got your MBA, you've got your BA. I mean, you are a very educated woman, and there is a reason why you left your corporate job to focus on algae. So tell us why. What's so exciting about algae?
Well, thank you, first of all, Tracy, for having me here. And I love talking about algae. The company is EnergyBits.com if you want to be learning more about it while you're watching us. So, did you want me to jump into protein or should I jump into how I got started into algae? I can go in any direction.
Let's let's talk about algae and why it's so wonderful and then go into the benefits that it has with protein.
Sure. Well, to carry along your conversation about the importance of protein, it is so important at every age, but particularly in your 40s and 50s. And people think about protein for muscles, which is very, very important for building, because muscles are an organ, and they are realizing it, strong muscles will keep you healthier longer. But proteins are used in about 1,000 different parts of your bodies. We're going to talk a little bit about probably about mitochondria, which generate all the energy, cellular energy for you. It's called ATP, and that you need this cellular energy to build your muscle, to think, to walk, to talk, to do everything. And those are that cell energy is created through a process using proteins. So proteins are important for so much more than muscle, but muscle is what gets people interested. So that being said, so how do we get protein? And let's walk back. What happens when you eat protein? So there's plant protein and animal protein. Although now you can also buy just aminos, separate aminos, so they're not a plant and they're not an animal. So there is that third option. But let's start with animal protein. When you eat animal protein, your body can't absorb it that way. It has to break it down into smaller components. Think of it sort of like Legos. It has to break it down to the little Legos, and those each Lego is like it's called an amino acid, and there are 20 of these amino acids. Now, it can take up to 2 to 3 days for your body to break down that big Lego piece of meat into individual pieces of Legos to absorb. And these days, most people don't have what's called the factors or cofactors or enzymes or coenzymes to help facilitate that. So, very often, you might eat 50 grams of chicken, which is about the size of a fist, but you may only absorb 10% as aminos. So you get 5 grams of aminos out of the 50 grams of protein, and it took you 2 or 3 days to get it. So it's not very efficient. It might have tasted delicious and it was great to go out for dinner, but if you're looking at the straight functionality of the protein, maybe it's not the most efficient way. The reason why I like algae so much as a source of protein, first of all, by weight, it has the highest concentration of protein in the universe. And this is all documented in science. I don't make anything up. It has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, chicken, or fish. There is nothing in the world with more protein on a per weight basis than algae, spirulina in particular, and the other algae is chlorella. Even the United Nations 50 years ago had a global conference endorsing spirulina as the answer to world hunger because it has this high concentration of protein and because it's a sustainable crop. So first of all, you get more protein from algae than you do your chicken, fish, or meat, and it's more bioavailable. Now, what does that mean? When you get algae, the protein that's in the spirulina or chlorella is already in amino acid form. So it's already in those little Legos. There's nothing for your body to do to break it down into those Legos because it's already in that shape. What does that mean? It means your body can absorb it instantly and effortlessly. And algae has 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 your body can't make, which is why it's a complete protein. There are essential aminos and non essential. The essential ones are the ones your body can't make. So it has all of them. So now, when you take 5 grams of protein, and we have little pouches of spirulina and chlorella that already are in little pouches of 30. When you take 30, you get 5 grams of protein, which doesn't sound like a lot. However, that converts into 5 grams of aminos. So it's like having 50 grams of chicken. Now, when you eat chicken or steak or fish, especially if you're at home, you had to go and buy it, you had to clean it, you had to cook it, and you had to have the time to eat it because you want to eat it in a quiet, calm environment. Who has that these days? So that you can digest it properly and you're in the parasympathetic system, rest and digest. With algae tablets, they come in these little tablets. You don't have to cook them. You don't have to clean them. You don't even have to eat them. You can swallow them if you don't like the flavor, and you get all of your aminos effortlessly, instantly. Spirulina will take seconds to be absorbed because it gets absorbed through your mouth if you chew them, and about 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, if you swallow them. That compares to 2 to 3 days that it takes for animal protein to be broken down into aminos so that you can then be getting them absorbed. So I like the spirulina and the chlorella, which spirulina has 64% protein, chlorella is 60, but 64 is pretty high. I like it as a source for everybody to either, if you're not getting enough protein, or if you just can't cook, are vegan, and just want to up your game on your protein. This is the way to do it, and it's effortless because you can swallow them, you can chew them, you can add them to smoothies, but you get all of the protein within minutes, seconds if you chew it, and it's 99% bioavailable. And vegans can have them, carnivores can have them because there's no lectins or oxalates. Paleo, they're low cal, low carb. If you're on a weight loss diet, if you're taking a GLP-1, please take this. You probably would need 30 a day if you're on a GLP-1. I have like about 50 or 100 a day, just so you know. There's no upper limit because they're food. Algae is food. It's not a supplement. We grow it in fresh water, then we dry it without heat, and then we press them into these little tablets that we call bits because they're bits of nutrition, bits of protein, bits of food, that you can have any time of day for any reason at any age, male, female, children, babies, grandparents, pets, and it's grown organically. And it is the safest food you'll ever put in your body. So it certainly answers the need to increase your protein and do it in a way that's effortless.
Okay, let's go back to what you just said because you said a lot of things, but I thought what was interesting was how we are doing all of this work to eat protein, and our body isn't utilizing all of it. So even if I ate 50 grams of protein, depending on my gut health, depending on my metabolic health, depending on a lot of things in my body and my whole system, is going to determine how much of that protein I absorb.
Right.
And so what you're saying is that the spirulina in particular of the algae is one that's 99% absorbable.
And here's why. Most people don't know this, and why would they? Because most people don't know what I know about algae. Spirulina, and we call ours energy bits, is not even a plant. It's a bacteria. It's called a cyanobacteria. So there's no cellulose wall for your body to break down to get access to all the aminos, 18 of the 20, and 40 other vitamins and minerals. So it's so bioavailable. It's almost unbelievable. Chlorella does have a hard cell wall, which takes about an hour and a half to get fully broken down and absorbed. But you still get access to those rich aminos once you do the full absorption. But for the spirulina, and here's an interesting thing. I used to be hypoglycemic, which means my blood sugar would drop. Anyone who's had this knows how terrible it is. You break out into a sweat. You're very you're shaky. You're weak, and very often people would have like oranges to get some sugar back into their system quickly. I started making sure when I went for a walk or worked out, I always had some spirulina with me, and it doesn't happen very often anymore. But when I because this gets into your bloodstream even faster than the oranges would, and it will bring in all the aminos and all the get your blood sugar stabilized again better than anything else. So it's not just the aminos, it's the availability and all the other great things that it does for your body. But the protein is the definitely the marquee way to get people's attention for the algae.
I think bioavailability is a huge piece that we are missing in the protein story. And it's something that I'm so glad that you brought attention to because depending on what we eat, we just don't know. I mean, so many things are going to be more difficult to break down. And we're spending a lot of time digesting too. I know for myself, when my body's digesting, it's like there's a lot of work happening, right? And our body has to spend more time, work harder to break things down. So something is 99% bioavailable, it's going to give us energy, but not be depleting our energy reserves to have to do all that work to break it down.
Right. 15% of your energy is directed towards nutrition or digestion. This is why also a big proponent on intermittent fasting. And you can use spirulina and chlorella, but I would recommend spirulina when you're doing intermittent fasting. I do intermittent fasting every day. And what does that mean? It means that you reduce the window of time when you are eating. So there's a larger and larger window of time when you're not eating. So all you need, if you've never done intermittent fasting, and maybe you get up in the morning and you have breakfast at 7:30 or 8, when you first start intermittent fasting, just push your breakfast hour back an hour. And then next day, maybe push it back a little hour. So for me right now, I usually don't, I just use spirulina in the morning when I get up till about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then I have a meal. Now, because I'm using spirulina and because it has not a lot of protein, but an equal amount of aminos, but not a lot of protein, it does not break your intermittent fast. It does not
Mm.
throw you out of ketosis, which is when you are using your fats, not glucose. So you're not hungry, you're not tired, you're not hangry, and yet you're still fasting. It's a beautiful thing. And then when you decide you do want to eat, you can, what I do, then I start adding nuts. I usually eat pistachio nuts if I want to just keep going until maybe delay my main meal even longer. So it gives you the nutrition that you need in protein, which equals aminos. It does it efficiently. It does it instantly. It does not require digestion, especially spirulina, because it literally almost bypasses digestion because it gets absorbed right into your bloodstream subliminally if you eat it because it goes in through your gums. But if you don't like the flavor, and not everybody does, yeah, even if you swallow it, it's still only about 10 minutes, which is a whole lot better than 2 days. no effort taken for you to prepare meals to eat, get the protein, and no digestion energy taken away. And so, also when you're intermittent fasting, all that energy that would have been directed to digestion is now redirected to other parts of your body. It helps your cells clean, which is a process called autophagy. Or if your cells say, "Oh, I think it's time for me to go," that's what's called the healthy cell death, called apoptosis. And the spirulina helps with all of that process as well. So very efficient, gives you back energy, doesn't take energy. And also, it's loaded with B vitamins, which convert the aminos into energy, not like a stimulant does, like sugar, caffeine, or chemicals. It just naturally converts them so that you have energy in the moment to think more, to do more. It's like putting a log on a fire. When you have a stimulant like caffeine, chemicals, sugar, it's like putting paper on the fire. You get a burst and then a crash. Algae is like putting a log on the fire. And we all like to sit by, well, I'm from the Northeast, so we used to always like to sit on the fire by the fire and what, hear the crackles and have some nice music playing and rest, which is what algae does. It allows you to rest and digest because it's not interfering with anything else. It's just elevating it.
One of my favorite things to do when I prep for the gym is to get my blood moving. And the way that I do that is by reducing inflammation and adding some nitric oxide to my blood. I love HydroShot. Not only does it taste delicious, but it has hydrogen gas infused into the can, as well as natural occurring nitric oxide from watermelon rind with green tea, and it's 0 calories. Well, you brought up a topic that's huge right now as well, and that's ketosis and fasting. And I would love for you to go deeper into the benefits of fasting because fasting can be so powerful for cellular autophagy, which is cleaning house, cleaning out the toxins. A lot of people got caught up in this buzzword of detoxing for so many years. I think Goop helped bring it all mainstream, and now people there's this pushback where people are like, forget that, and it's kind of there's a lot of trends that happen, but let's put trends aside and focus on our cellular health, focus on
Right.
me being healthy as a human. How do I explore being the healthiest version of myself? And how does fasting play a role in that?
Right. As we all know, there seems to be much more chronic disease than ever before, and it's hitting people earlier and earlier in their lives. And my observation is that this is due to two main things. Number one is we simply are not getting the nutrition that we need. Our soils are so damaged that there's no minerals in the soil. So when we even eat vegetables, you're not getting the nutrition that your grandparents did. And then, of course, 75% of the population eats processed foods, super over processed foods. So we are nutritionally deprived. The other big problem is we are in a toxic soup. The average adult in North America now has 700 toxins in their bodies, which are playing havoc with all the metabolic processes, all the ability for your body to function optimally, and even to absorb those nutrients. So spirulina provides the nutrients in, and that's not just the protein, but all the nutrition. And chlorella pulls toxins out. Now they work
Mm.
together because here's the thing. Again, I referenced formerly living in the Northeast where there's lots of snow, particularly in the winter. So parking spots are very precious in cities like New York or Boston, and I've lived in both of those cities. But if someone steals your parking spot, you're out of luck. You can't park there. So you have to call the towing truck or the police to come and get the car out of your parking spot so that you can go in. That's what chlorella does. It's like the police force or the tow truck because even if you're putting great protein and great nutrition in, if it can't get in, it's like because the toxin is sitting on
Mhm.
what's called a receptor cell on the outside of your cell membrane. These receptor cells let antioxidants and proteins and things in and lets toxins to get out. But if there's toxins sitting on those receptor cells, it's like a car taking your parking spot. So you need to get rid of those toxins. It's like pulling out the car that's stolen your parking spot. So the good nutrition, the good protein can get in. So they work really well together. Toxins out, nutrition in. And that's what spirulina is: nutrition in, chlorella is toxins out. Now, you need to have this thing called cellular cleansing, which is referred to as autophagy, and the next level is apoptosis, which we can talk about. I know they're kind of complicated terms. Think of autophagy like cleaning your room. I don't have kids. I run a company instead. But if you had kids, and it even happens here, in our office, we get delivery after delivery after delivery, and it all gets piled into the back room. Or maybe you have teenagers and they go out to school, and then they come back and they drop their clothes, and then they go work out at the gym, and then they drop their clothes, and they go out to see their friends and they drop their clothes. By Friday, you can't even find their bed. There's so many clothes. There's empty pizza boxes. There's who knows what's growing underneath some of that stuff. So Saturday, cleanup day. Or here at the office, when we get all these deliveries, maybe Tuesdays, we open all the boxes and put everything away. That's what autophagy is for your cell. But the trouble is, if you're eating nonstop, because the way that your body makes energy is in the mitochondria. And in the mitochondria, the process is called the electron transport chain. And basically, these proteins accept the food that you've been eating, convert them into electrons, move the electrons along to generate ATP. But if you're eating all the time and you're eating things with lots of carbs that throw off a lot of these free radicals in the process of making this electron ATP, they never get a chance to clean up, just like your teenager never gets a chance to clean up their room, or here at the office we don't get to clean up all the deliveries. And so things just start not working well. You trip over the clothes, you start smelling stuff that's growing. Same with your cells. If you don't give your cells a chance to have a break to clean up all the mess that's been left over, all the free radicals that were thrown off by making all that energy for you, then you start to become the cells become cluttered with stuff that is not efficient and interferes with them generating nice, clean energy for you. So you get less energy, become more fatigued. It starts to become acidic because there's stuff that shouldn't be there. When you have acidic cells, that means there's not enough oxygen or water. It is an invitation for viruses or cancers or other diseases to take fold. So autophagy gives your cellular equipment or the chance to clean up so that it can stay clean and function optimally. Now, when you take spirulina, because it actually facilitates that autophagy because there's zero carbs in spirulina or chlorella, and it's the carbs that are causing the vast majority of the free radicals, which then lead to the garbage being accumulated in the cell. So spirulina helps with the autophagy process without burdening your body with extra work. How great is that? It's like, you know what it's like? It's like having a cleaning lady come in to clean your teenager's room. They don't have to clean it and you don't have to clean it. That's what spirulina does. It helps clean up the cell without anybody having to do any work. And that's pretty sweet.
That is really sweet because cancer, let's just talk about, like, I know your sister had breast cancer, and that was one of an impetus to get you
Yes. The
interested.
emphasis. Yes.
uh Chlorella and spirulina.
Spirulina.
And we've heard of things like xenoestrogens, and these are molecules that mimic estrogen. They're long chain estrogens that we're going to find in plastics and toxins in our environment, chemicals, and various things that bind to what you had mentioned before, these receptor sites that our natural estrogen should be. It's almost like a key that's unlocking something in our cells to create these biological processes. But different toxins can mimic certain molecules. So xenoestrogens are mimicking our natural estrogens, and these are the things that can contribute to cancer. And so it sounds to me like you're talking about something that can help clean out these these things that are mimicking healthy molecules that should be binding to these receptor sites in our cells and unlocking things that we are just taking up space. They're not actually turning on these metabolic processes that our body needs because they're just taking up space sitting there and they're mimicking the molecules that our body needs to
Right.
utilize for health. And this can be anything from minerals that our body needs, and we're lacking minerals, but if you actually take a mineral test, it might show that you're high in a certain mineral, but it's not true because there's something that is binding to those receptor sites and making it look like we have the minerals that we don't have. So that's why actually hair samples are better than.
Hair samples or epigenetic testing, which is testing done at the cellular and the DNA level, not the blood test. But you're absolutely right. So the key is that we want food. Well, everything that enters your body, everything is a communication vehicle. So because everything gets broken down into smaller molecules, and so healthy foods, whether they're fruits or vegetables or grass-fed animal protein or algae in this case, get broken down into smaller components. And if it's real food, not loaded with chemicals, not fabricated in like pharmaceuticals, then the body recognizes it, and as it breaks it down, it goes, "Oh, there's some iron. I'm going to put iron over here. Oh, there's my vitamin C. I need some of that over here. Oh, zinc. I need you down here." It's like having a whole team, and the team comes to work, and they get reallocated to different jobs on the job site. That's what happens when you have real food. When you end up eating things that are fake, like snack foods and processed foods, they come into your body, and your body doesn't know what it is, so it can't use the nutrients because it doesn't know it just doesn't recognize them. So very often, what happens is that your body stores them in your fat because
Mhm.
the body says, "Well, I don't know what to do with this, so I don't want it to damage anything. I don't really need fat, so I'm going to plow you into the fat."
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of your toxins are stored, is in your body's fat. They also lodge in, they fake themselves into being a receptor site and fake their way in. It's like someone stealing your credit card and faking that they're you and buying stuff. That's what this all these chemicals and pesticides and plastics, microplastics do. They fake their way in, and then they sit there and they prevent the good stuff from getting in. But here's the interesting thing, especially if anyone, again, I mentioned GLP-1 because it's so popular now, and it's doing great stuff for people. So I'm certainly not bashing. In fact, I think it's helping people a lot. But when you lose a lot of weight, what's happening is your body is releasing fat,
Yeah.
and you lose weight because you're not eating, but your body's constantly still growing cells. So you need to be sure you're giving your body the nutrients it needs to be building cells. But if you're not eating and you're losing weight, guess what you're releasing? Toxins.
Yeah.
You're not releasing just fat, you are releasing toxins.
Well,
So
you're liberating toxins into your bloodstream, right? So now you're like, I've let go of these fat cells, but they were bound to toxins, and so now there's toxins liberated in your bloodstream. So now
so
we,
now it becomes even more important that you detox,
yeah,
which is what chlorella does. And ours we call ours recovery bits because it helps you.
detox can be
So
such a
this
triggering word for people, though. I'm finding now, right? Because
what
over it was just overplayed for people were being sold and something, and then it just, I think there becomes like a bad taste in the mouth. So I
which
like
term are
to
you
think
referring
of it
to?
as
Which term are you referring to? I don't know which term you're.
detoxing.
Oh, oh,
Detoxing.
I'm sorry, but, you can never overuse detox, because here's the thing, we live in a toxic world. It just is the way it is,
I think
whether
it,
it's the air or the food that you're eating or your
and I agree.
cosmetics,
You need to
and
be everyday detoxing, but
yep,
I think understanding it, right? Um because when something gets over marketed, people are being sold and not educated correctly on things. It's just being used as a word to sell something.
yeah.
And that's when it can become like, whoa, I don't want to detox. I mean, it's been sold a million things that are going to help me detox, but I don't really understand. And that's why this show is really committed to helping people understand why they're doing something, helping understand what is detoxing so that they can make educated decisions for themselves
Right.
instead of just being sold some marketing
Yeah,
ploy.
you don't wanna be
And
sold to. In fact, I'm
the
writing a book right now, it'll be published in the fall, called Love Your Health to Bits with Algae, and there's an entire chapter devoted to the toxic soup that we're in that
Mhm.
we didn't have to deal with 50 years ago. It's not just the chemicals in our air it's the chemicals that are in our food, the chemicals that are in, our cosmetics.
Geopathic stress on our cells from
Yes.
all of the non-native electromagnetic
Yeah,
frequency.
there's never been a period like this where there's so much toxicity, and you have to be on the defense to protect yourself. And so, but the trouble is, some people they go, "Oh, I'll do a detox once a year." That's not enough. It's like you can't clean your room once a year. Yeah, you have to think of detox as something as a daily basis. That's why I love chlorella because, and in fact, we're on our way to a big biological dentistry conference tomorrow because chlorella has been used by biological dentists for centuries because well decades anyways because it pulls out mercury. Those silver fillings that you have in your teeth, those are mercury, and mercury is not good for you. But when you pull it out, there's fumes of mercury that are released in you and to the air for the dentist. So they use chlorella to remove the mercury, just like you use chlorella to remove lead or aluminum or any other heavy metal that should not be in your body. But the trouble is these pesticide and the heavy metals, mold has become a big deal. They're everywhere. And so you can't just do a detox occasionally. I tell people taking chlorella every day is like giving your body a shower from the inside. We shower on the outside every morning. But what about all the stuff that's on the inside that you can't see? And that's what chlorella does. You don't, and it's effortless because you also get chlorophyll and 40 vitamins and minerals. It helps you sleep. It helps you poop. It helps you with cellular repair. So it does a lot more than just detox. When you do detox through activated charcoal, you pull out everything, all minerals. You can get dehydrated
Yeah.
by using activated charcoal. Not, I'm not a fan of of activated charcoal. I am a fan of another way of detox, but most people will not do this. That's why chlorella makes it so much easier. You just open your mouth and down the hatch, chew it, swallow it. The other method I do really endorse are coffee enemas. They are terrific for getting rid of toxins in your liver, but it's a commitment. It's messy, and very very small number of people will do it. So it makes taking chlorella look like going to first class because it's effortless. You love it. It actually tastes really good. I put sea salt on mine, eat it with pistachio nuts. So there are other methods for detoxing, but a lot of them are a lot more rigorous and difficult, and but they're very effective. But you want to choose well. You want to choose something that you're going to do regularly, preferably daily. And talking about regularity, that one of the ways you detox is through bowel movements. Actually, there's four pathways for detox: breath, sweat, urine, and bowel movements. Saunas are great for detox through sweat. And when you do a sauna, you want to take chlorella after the sauna because it's your cleanup crew. So whatever your body is releasing through the sauna, you don't want to hang around and get reabsorbed. So you want to get that cleanup crew to mop it up and get rid of it. That's what chlorella does. But saunas are incredible for detox. Breath, that's probably one of the reasons why aerobic exercise is really great because it increases your breathing. But you can also do that through breath work. You can be sitting there and doing the Wim Hof method, or your the in, hold, out, hold. Breath is an incredible way of getting rid of toxins. Urine and bowel movements. Let's talk about that. What's down in your colon? I call the junk in your trunk. This is stuff the body did not want. And if you don't have a bowel movement every day, it's like having a garbage truck parked in front of your house permanently. It smells bad, it looks bad, it is bad because the
Yeah.
blood circulates around that colon and goes, "Oh, there's stuff down here. I think I'll just pick up those toxins again and recirculate them." You don't want that. Chlorella will help move. It has high tryptophan. high tryptophan stimulates something called serotonin, and this stimulates what's called colon motility. Another way is saying peristalsis, but the basic term is bowel movements or poop. It just helps you poop. Okay, chlorella is amazing for that. So generally, that's why we recommend chlorella before bed, because that's when you're sleeping, your body goes through a detox repair cycle. So when you have chlorella in your system while you are sleeping, you are getting rid of the aluminum in your brain, you're getting rid of the what I call the junk in your trunk, and you're just doing a lot of cleanup while you're getting your beauty rest. You didn't have to do anything. Chlorella's doing all the heavy lifting for you. And then you have a nice trip to the bathroom, and you're much cleaner, and then you have a lot more better health. And colon cancer is on the rise because constipation is so prevalent in our world right now. So we need to get rid of that problem.
All right, you guys, if you haven't already gotten the Hydrate book, let me tell you why this book is so special. First of all, it took me about 4 years to complete this book, but I made it so that you could put it on your coffee table, give it as a gift to the person that has everything, and it pretty much fits into every decor. I go through my 9 pillars of health, and I really make science fun and playful. So you can open it to any page, get inspiration, and learn some deep science in a fun and playful way. I highly suggest this as a gift to the person that has everything. Thank you for explaining detoxing on a different level and helping us understand the 4 detox pathways as well. Because sometimes these things that seem obvious, we maybe know, but we forget or don't know. And it's like when I was a little kid, I didn't know that pooping every day was essential because these are things that are embarrassing and you don't want to talk about. And
I know.
so when you're bringing up these things, it's important, and I hope kids are listening to this show too, because these are things that are essential for helping us grow up as healthy humans. I want to switch gears a little bit and go into the impetus of what started this for you, which was your sister having breast cancer. We're walking my mom through stage 4 metastatic ovarian cancer right
Oh
now.
gosh.
And a huge part of this process is the the process of getting the cancer cells out of the body, right? And so whatever path you choose, if you're choosing to do chemo and radiation, then we need a way, like you were talking about, where the car is parked there in the parking spot, we need to get it out. So I can imagine that chlorella and spirulina play a huge role
Oh,
in helping assist in maybe these more traditional therapies of chemo and radiation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
absolutely. So let me tell you first what how I started the company, and then we'll get into some benefits of spirulina and chlorella for cancer. And probably spirulina, if you had to choose one, that would be the one I would focus on. But we'll mention some of the benefits of chlorella. So I did have a business career, international corporate career, 25 years. I was enjoying my career. And then out of the blue, my younger sister, who I'm very close to in Canada, developed breast cancer. She was in her early 40s. She had 2 young children, very active, very healthy. We could, just out of the blue. And it was very frightening. But she did go through chemo. And when she was preparing for her chemo, her oncologist, which is a cancer specialist, told her to change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would be important for her healing. Didn't tell her exactly why it was good for her or what exactly it was. So she called me, her big sister, who loves her. And I'm also just a really good researcher, and I always have. And I had no idea about nutrition, zero. But I knew how to get on the internet. So I Googled the alkaline diet, anyone can. And it was basically phytonutrients, a plant-based diet because of the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients that build your immune system, have been proven to build your immune system. And of course, she was going through chemo, so her doctor wanted her to have a strong immune system. But I also learned that back in the 30s, there was a German scientist by the name of Otto Warburg who discovered that cancer cannot exist in cells that are alkaline. And so the scale of alkalinity goes from 0 to 14. So your cells should be like 7.1, 7.2, slightly alkaline. And so I have to believe that her oncologist wanted her to have an alkaline diet so the cancer wouldn't spread into the other cells, but it wouldn't spread if you could keep them alkaline. So that's what so I helped her figure that out. And once I started learning about plant-based nutrition and the alkalinity, then I started all the science papers I kept reading kept referring to spirulina and chlorella as being very alkaline, very healing, very important for cellular health. And that's what got me interested in both plant-based nutrition and then algae. So I wasn't anticipating getting into algae when I started reading about it and found there were 100,000 studies documenting its benefits, and it's been used safely for 60 years in Asia, where it's a multi-billion dollar crop. Yes, it's an algae is a crop, not a supplement. And yet nobody in outside of Asia knew about the benefits or had a safe, clean, pure version of it. That's when I decided to start the company so I could educate people about its benefits and provide them with a third party clean source. So that's how I got started, and here we are 16 years later, and I now have a big company, and we're growing, and we're really making a change in people's health. So how does it help someone if they're taking, if they are either have cancer or want to, or had, or want, don't want to recur, or even how to prevent it? Well, a couple of things. Remember, I said my sister's oncologist wanted her to have an alkaline diet. Cancer cells cannot exist in cells that are alkaline. There is no other food in the world that is more alkaline than spirulina and chlorella. It comes from the high phytonutrients and the chlorophyll. So, number one, to help keep your cells alkaline, that's one of the number one things that algae will do for you. Yes, I know there's fancy alkaline waters. That's really a marketing thing. It's not really making a difference at the cellular level. But your cells get acidic when they aren't healthy. That's where autophagy comes in. That's why intermittent fasting comes in. Anything that keeps the cells healthy means that there's oxygen and water in them. And when there's oxygen and water in them, they're more alkaline. But to keep them there, having something like algae will definitely support the alkalinity in a way that nothing else possibly can. So that's number one, alkalinity. Number two, here's what's really interesting. Spirulina has two pigments in it. Chlorella only has one. Chlorella has one. It's called chlorophyll. That's why it's called chlorella, because of the high chlorophyll. Highest chlorophyll in the world is in chlorella. Spirulina is called a blue-green algae because it has two pigments. It has the green one called chlorophyll, but it also has a blue one, which is called phycocyanin, Phycocyanin. Doesn't exist in any other form of plants in the world, just in spirulina. Why is that important to know with cancer? Well, two things. That blue phycocyanin does two things related to cancer. Remember, I mentioned that in your cells, you have mitochondria, which generate cellular energy. And the process by which they do that is through something called the electron transport chain. Stay with me because I know this is a little complicated, but hang in there. You've all seen a relay race, right? You have a runner who has a baton and they run a distance and then they pass the baton to the next runner. And then that runner runs a distance and passes it to the next runner. And they hope to cross the finish line before anyone else and they win the race. Well, the way that your cellular energy is produced in the mitochondria is very similar, except instead of runners, you have these protein molecules. And instead of a baton, they are passing electrons. So they pass them from one to the next. However, there are two what's called helper molecules. Think of it as like Ferraris. Imagine someone who's running a marathon and they have some friends with a Ferrari parked in the woods at mile 20, and just in case they can't make it, and so they jump into the Ferrari, and the Ferrari races them to the next it's cheating, of course, but the Ferrari moves them faster than they could possibly run on their own. That's what these little two helper molecules do. They're like little Ferraris in that electron transport chain, in that
Mhm.
process of runners. One of the helper Ferraris you've probably heard of. It's called CoQ10. So we're not going to talk about CoQ10, but that's one of your Ferraris in that electron transport chain. The other Ferrari, I'm sure you've never heard of before, but that's a very important one we're going to talk about. It's called cytochrome C. So in a healthy cell, the blue phycocyanin, the blue pigment in spirulina, knows it's a healthy cell, sees that little Ferrari helper cell, and speeds it up. That's one of the reasons why spirulina gives you energy, because it triggers this little Ferrari cell to move the cellular energy creation faster. However, if it's a cancer cell, the blue pigment knows that it's a cancer cell and goes, I'm onto you. No Ferrari for you. And what it does is that he kicks it out. It ejects that little Ferrari helper cell called cytochrome C, which triggers something called apoptosis, which kills the cancer cells. Cancer cells can't do this on their own. This is why they grow so quickly. And this slows down the growth, it stops the growth of cancer. Now,
Yay.
companies use this blue phycocyanin in their treatments now, and they can tell if the cancer is being killed by how? They measure the amount of cytochrome C, that little Ferrari, in your blood plasma. Because if there's a lot of it, they know a lot of that stuff was ejected, which killed a lot of the cancer. Unbelievable, right? This is why I call spirulina intelligent food. You have to be intelligent to take it, and it knows what to do in your body. If it's a healthy cell, it speeds up that Ferrari. If it's a cancer cell, it takes it to the junkyard and says, nope, no suit for you.
I love that.
Amazing, right?
I love how you explain and break things down so simply for anybody to understand. Even a 5-year-old can understand this. And it's
Exactly. If you
very,
understand what's going on in your body, it's not as frightening. And,
yeah.
like, for me, for example, I love science and I love business, but I am not a cook. I am not good in the kitchen. I have 2 sisters who are the best cooks in the world. They can whip up something, they don't need any recipe. Me, I need a recipe, and I need to know all the ingredients, so I go out to buy it, and if I follow the recipe, I can cook a pretty good meal. I want you to have the recipe of how your body works and what it needs to work well, so you can cook up great health. And this blue phycocyanin that's not found anywhere else in the world is one of the ways that it helps you with the cancer situation. I have one more thing to tell you about this blue phycocyanin. So, one of the ways that cancer and tumors grow is they basically hijack your blood vessels and reroute them to feed them. It's called angiogenesis. The growth of blood vessels is called angiogenesis. So anything that prevents that is called anti-angiogenesis because it stops that process. This blue phycocyanin stops the process of the cancer cells trying to redirect the blood vessels to feed them. That's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's just one of the many things that this algae does for you. Now, if you are taking chemotherapy treatments, and we know that makes you nauseous because it's killing so many cells, I have something else for you, chlorella. Because what does it do? Chlorella pulls out all heavy metals, including radiation. There was that Fukushima disaster in Japan about 10 years ago, the entire global supply of chlorella was bought up by the Japanese within 24 hours because they knew it was the only thing that would save them and protect them from radiation. Does the same thing if you're taking radiation treatments. So we want you to do your treatments, but the day after your treatment, please be sure you're taking 30 or even 60 chlorella to pull out the excess radiation so that you're not feeling so sick. And also when you're sick, you're not feeling like you don't want to eat, and yet you need to eat because you need nourishment. So you can swallow or chew the spirulina or the chlorella and be nourishing your body with all of those proteins, 40 vitamins and minerals, building back your immune system while you are also stopping and fighting the cancer cells. So it's a double win.
I love that. Thank you for educating us on that. That is really powerful. And even if you don't have cancer, this is a way that you can prevent cancer, I would
Absolutely.
imagine, just by helping with our metabolic health, which is just our cells being healthy, communicating better. And that includes having the things that are not good for us in this toxic soup out of our body. And
That tow truck.
that
Tow
Chotok,
truck.
and the chlorella is helping to mobilize that and bind and pull it, but now it's gonna go into our colon, And that's why, like you were talking about, these enemas and making sure that you're pooping every day is a big part of that process, because now that everything's dumped into the colon and it wants to make its way out, we need to make sure that it does so that it doesn't recirculate back into the
Right.
bloodstream.
I have another tip for constipation and digestion. It has nothing to do with algae. And I've recommended this to so many people. And I only stumbled across it myself about 6 months ago. Fresh pineapple.
Mm.
Oh my God. It's the bromelain in fresh pineapple. I have, half a cup a day, and of course, it's delicious. It's actually I never used to eat pineapple because I thought it was so loaded with sugar. It's actually not, and there's lots of fiber, so it slows down. There's no insulin spike, like you would get with grapes or wine. But when you pair the fresh pineapple with the chlorella, you will never have another problem with bowel movements. I absolutely promise you. So, go out to Whole Foods or there's places that sell them all pre-chopped for you, and put them in yogurt, put them in whatever, just eat them fresh. Even have them with the chlorella. It's incredible. Mother Nature has provided for us, but we need to know the recipe, right?
Yes, exactly. God's given us everything we need. It's just getting the wisdom to understand how to utilize it. So thank you for helping us become more wise today, Catherine. I
My
have one
pleasure.
last question before we end. If you could go back to the beginning of your algae story, what's one thing that you believed about algae that you know now is not true?
Like most people, I only thought of it as pond scum and things that, grow on the beach that, made beach life unpleasant because, there was all these algae blooms. And, I will tell you, the algae only shows up when there's toxins and bacteria in the water. It's Mother Nature's cleanup act. You couldn't see the bacteria and you couldn't see the toxins. You can only see the algae. But what it does is it kills bacteria and absorbs the toxins. It does it on the beaches and it does it in your body. So I really felt I had to apologize to algae because it's literally the Mother Nature's prodigy child, and we don't have time to go into all the detail. But I'm more in love with algae now, 16 years later, than I ever have been because I know so much about what it does, and there's nutrients in there not found anywhere else in any other food. That we desperately need. So, and it's effortless when you take it in the tablet form, and you don't even have to chew it if you don't like it. So algae is not something to be angry about. In fact, you should be grateful. And hopefully, if I can do my job right, people will see that it is the most nourishing food in the world. By the way, it was the first life on Earth almost 4
Yeah.
billion years ago. Before it was spirulina, which is a cyanobacteria. Before cyanobacteria showed up on Earth, there was no oxygen, no life. So I think there's something spiritual about being the first life on Earth. So I call spirulina spiritualina.
Right. That's very interesting. Well, thank you, Catherine, for being on the show. Everyone, if you're interested in getting some algae energy bits, then you can visit their website, and every all of the links are in our show notes. So you can learn more about Catherine. You can find a link to their website, and you can use our family discount code Hydrate to
Yes.
get a special discount on your first purchase. So
Well,
thank
actually, no, on any purchase. So,
oh, any
uh,
purchase. Okay, all
yeah,
your
so
purchases.
everywhere it's evergreen. They call it evergreen. So energybits.com is the website, and on the coupon put hydrate. Bags, boxes, canisters, works for everything. And by the way, the bags are the best value, and we have
Yeah.
the 20% discount for you. So normally they're 130, it goes down to 104. But if you need to take at least 10 tablets to start, 30 for therapeutic correction purposes. But if you took 10, yeah, generally 10 spirulina in the morning, because that's when you're hungry and tired, and 10 chlorella before bed. But 10 a day works out to $1 a day when you use your hydrate discount. So for $2, you can be nourished and protected from toxins. I'd say that's less than a coffee. Please visit us just to learn more at energybits.com. And when my book comes out, we'll do a special promotion for that too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Catherine, and thank you everyone for making time to listen.
Thanks, Tracy.